You think ancient gods are just myths. But here's what most people don't realize: the gods of Mesopotamia weren't just religious figures, they were the foundation of the world's first civilization. These weren't abstract concepts or distant deities, these were gods who controlled every aspect of human life, from law and order to agriculture and warfare. And the crazy part? Their influence is still embedded in modern society today. From the 7-day week to the concept of divine kingship, from written law to organized religion itself, Mesopotamian gods shaped the world we live in. Today we're diving deep into the gods that built civilization. We're talking about Anu, Enlil, Enki, Inanna, Marduk, and the divine beings who created the blueprint for every organized society that followed. This isn't just mythology, this is the origin story of human culture itself. Let's start with the king of the gods, Anu. Anu was the supreme deity of the Mesopotamian pantheon, the god of the heavens, the ultimate authority. His name literally means sky or heaven in Sumerian. He wasn't just a god, he was the concept of divine authority itself. Every king in Mesopotamia claimed to rule by the authority of Anu. Without Anu's blessing, no ruler was legitimate. This is where the entire concept of divine right of kings originates. But here's what's fascinating: Anu rarely intervened directly in human affairs. He was distant, remote, ruling from the highest heaven. Other gods handled the day-to-day management of the world. Anu's role was to establish the cosmic order, the divine laws that governed reality itself. He represented ultimate sovereignty, the source from which all other authority flowed. And this matters because every civilization that followed adopted this same structure. Kings claimed divine authority, rulers positioned themselves as representatives of the gods. From Egypt to Rome to medieval Europe, the pattern established by Anu shaped political systems for thousands of years. Then we have Enlil, the god of wind, storms, and executive power. If Anu was the distant king, Enlil was the active ruler. He was the one who actually governed the world, who made decisions, who executed divine will. Enlil controlled the weather, agriculture, destiny itself. When Enlil was pleased, crops grew and civilizations prospered. When Enlil was angry, storms destroyed cities and floods wiped out humanity. The Epic of Gilgamesh describes Enlil as the god who decided to destroy humanity with a great flood. Sound familiar? The biblical flood story is directly derived from Mesopotamian myths about Enlil. Noah's flood, the ark, the survival of humanity, all of this comes from older Sumerian and Akkadian stories about Enlil's wrath. Enlil's temple in Nippur was considered the religious center of Mesopotamia. Kings from different city-states would come to Nippur to receive Enlil's blessing. Controlling Nippur meant controlling religious legitimacy. This established the pattern of centralized religious authority that we see in every major religion today. Now let's talk about Enki, the god of wisdom, water, and creation. Enki is absolutely fascinating because he's portrayed as humanity's protector and benefactor. While Enlil wanted to destroy humans, Enki worked to save them. When Enlil sent the flood, Enki warned the hero Utnapishtim and told him to build an ark. Enki is the Mesopotamian equivalent of Prometheus, the god who gave forbidden knowledge to humanity. Enki was credited with teaching humans agriculture, writing, mathematics, medicine, and magic. He created the first humans from clay. He established the social order. He invented the arts and crafts. Essentially, everything that makes civilization possible was attributed to Enki. He represents divine wisdom and benevolent intelligence. And here's the key: Enki was often in conflict with Enlil. Enlil represented order, authority, and strict divine law. Enki represented creativity, compassion, and bending the rules to help humanity. This theological conflict reflects a fundamental tension in human society, the balance between authority and freedom, between law and creativity, between control and innovation. Then we have Inanna, one of the most complex and powerful goddesses in all mythology. Inanna was the goddess of love, beauty, sex, fertility, war, justice, and political power. She wasn't a one-dimensional figure, she contained multitudes. She could be a gentle lover or a fierce warrior. She could bring life or death. She was the patron goddess of the city of Uruk, one of the world's first major cities. The most famous myth about Inanna is her descent to the underworld. In this story, Inanna journeys to the realm of the dead, ruled by her sister Ereshkigal. At each of the 7 gates, Inanna must remove a piece of her divine power and clothing. By the time she reaches the throne, she's completely stripped of her authority. Ereshkigal kills her and hangs her corpse on a hook. But Enki sends rescuers to bring her back to life. Inanna returns to the world, transformed by her encounter with death. This myth is incredibly profound. It describes a shamanic initiation, a death and rebirth experience. It's about confronting mortality, surrendering power, and emerging transformed. This same pattern appears in myths worldwide: Orpheus in the underworld, Jesus' crucifixion and resurrection, Buddha's enlightenment after confronting death. Inanna's descent is the prototype for all heroes' journey myths involving death and rebirth. And Inanna's character is significant because she breaks every gender stereotype. She's sexually autonomous, politically powerful, militarily dominant. She chooses her own lovers, she wages wars, she demands worship. In a patriarchal society, Inanna represented a vision of feminine power that was equal to or greater than masculine power. Now let's discuss Marduk, the god who became the supreme deity of Babylon. Originally a local god of the city of Babylon, Marduk rose to become the king of all gods. His rise reflects the political rise of Babylon itself. As Babylon became the dominant power in Mesopotamia, Marduk's mythology expanded. The Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation epic, describes Marduk's rise to power. In this myth, the primordial goddess Tiamat creates an army of monsters to destroy the younger gods. The gods are terrified and don't know what to do. Marduk volunteers to fight Tiamat, but demands supreme authority in return. The gods agree. Marduk defeats Tiamat in cosmic battle, splits her body in half, and creates the heavens and earth from her corpse. He then creates humans from the blood of a slain god to serve the deities. This myth is politically loaded. It justifies Babylon's dominance by making their patron god the creator of the universe. It establishes a pattern where a younger, more aggressive god defeats an older, chaotic force and creates order. This same pattern appears in Greek mythology with Zeus defeating Kronos, in Norse mythology with the Aesir defeating the Jotnar, in Hindu mythology with Indra defeating Vritra. Marduk's mythology shows us how religion and politics intertwine. Gods rise and fall based on the political fortunes of their cities. Theology changes to reflect power structures. This is crucial to understand: mythology isn't static, it evolves based on historical circumstances. Let's talk about Shamash, the sun god and god of justice. Shamash was the divine judge, the one who saw everything under the sun. He represented truth, fairness, and moral order. The famous Code of Hammurabi, one of the world's first written legal codes, shows King Hammurabi receiving the laws directly from Shamash. This established the principle that law comes from divine authority, not human invention. Think about what this means. Hammurabi's code includes principles like proportional punishment, legal precedent, and written law. These concepts shaped every legal system that followed. Roman law, Islamic law, modern Western law, all traced their roots back to these Mesopotamian principles. And all of them claim divine origin through gods like Shamash. Shamash also represents the idea that the gods care about human morality. He wasn't just a cosmic force, he actively intervened to punish injustice and reward virtue. This concept, that divine beings enforce moral behavior, became foundational to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Then we have Ishtar, the Akkadian/Assyrian version of Inanna. As Mesopotamian culture evolved and different empires rose, Inanna's worship transformed into the cult of Ishtar. Ishtar retained all of Inanna's characteristics: love, war, fertility, power. But she became even more prominent. Ishtar was worshipped across the entire ancient Near East, from Mesopotamia to Egypt. Ishtar's symbolism is everywhere in ancient culture. The eight-pointed star, the lion, the dove, all Ishtar's symbols. She influenced the worship of Aphrodite in Greece, Venus in Rome, even aspects of the Virgin Mary in Christianity. The Queen of Heaven title, the association with the planet Venus, the iconography of feminine divine power, all of this traces back to Ishtar. And here's something wild: Ishtar had male priests who dressed as women and performed ecstatic rituals. She had sacred prostitutes, gender-fluid worshippers, queer spiritual practitioners. Ancient Mesopotamian religion had space for gender complexity and sexual diversity that many modern religions lack. Ishtar represented a vision of the divine that transcended binary categories. Let's talk about Nergal, the god of war, plague, and the underworld. Nergal represents the destructive, terrifying aspects of divinity. He wasn't evil, he was necessary. Death, disease, destruction, these are part of reality, so they needed a divine representative. Nergal married Ereshkigal, the goddess of the underworld, and became co-ruler of the realm of the dead. Nergal's worship shows us that ancient Mesopotamians didn't sugarcoat reality. They acknowledged that existence includes suffering, violence, and death. Their gods reflected the full spectrum of human experience, not just the pleasant parts. This is radically different from later religious traditions that tried to separate good and evil into distinct divine beings. We should also discuss Nabu, the god of writing, wisdom, and scribes. Nabu was the son of Marduk and became incredibly important as literacy and record-keeping became central to civilization. Every scribe invoked Nabu before writing. Libraries and archives were considered Nabu's sacred spaces. The entire administrative structure of Mesopotamian civilization depended on writing, so Nabu's role was crucial. Nabu represents the idea that knowledge itself is divine. Writing wasn't just a practical tool, it was a sacred act, a way of participating in divine creativity. This elevated the status of scholars, scribes, and intellectuals. It established education and literacy as religious values. This pattern influenced Judaism's emphasis on Torah study, Islam's emphasis on Quranic literacy, and Christianity's emphasis on scripture. Now let's connect this to civilization itself. Why did Mesopotamian gods shape human culture so profoundly? Because Mesopotamia is where civilization began. The Sumerians invented writing, cities, organized religion, bureaucracy, legal codes, agriculture, mathematics, and astronomy. Their gods provided the framework for organizing complex societies. Think about it, they needed to justify kingship, so they created gods who appointed kings. They needed to enforce laws, so they created gods who demanded justice. They needed to organize agriculture, so they created gods who controlled weather and fertility. They needed to understand the cosmos, so they created gods who personified celestial bodies. Religion and civilization co-evolved. And this pattern spread everywhere. When later cultures developed, they adopted and adapted Mesopotamian models. The Egyptians, the Hittites, the Canaanites, the Hebrews, all influenced by Mesopotamian theology. Greek philosophy drew on Mesopotamian wisdom traditions. Roman administration borrowed from Mesopotamian bureaucracy. Even Islamic civilization preserved and built upon Mesopotamian knowledge. Here's what's mind-blowing: many aspects of modern life trace directly back to Mesopotamian religion. The 7-day week, based on 7 celestial deities. The 12-month calendar, based on 12 major gods. The concept of law codes, from Hammurabi and Shamash. The idea of divine judgment after death, from Mesopotamian underworld myths. Astrological zodiac signs, from Mesopotamian astronomy and divine symbolism. Even our language preserves these connections. The word Monday comes from moon day, Saturday from Saturn, both traced back to Mesopotamian celestial deities. The names of months, the division of the day into 24 hours, the 60-minute hour, the 360-degree circle, all of these come from Mesopotamian mathematics and astronomy, which were inseparable from their religion. So when we study Mesopotamian gods, we're not studying ancient mythology, we're studying the foundations of our own civilization. We're seeing how humans first organized complex societies, how they explained reality, how they created meaning. These gods represent humanity's first attempts to understand law, justice, morality, knowledge, love, war, life, and death. The decline of Mesopotamian religion is also significant. As empires fell, as new religions emerged, as Christianity and Islam spread, the old gods were forgotten. Temples were abandoned, texts were buried, traditions were lost. But the fundamental patterns they established remained. The new religions that replaced them adopted their structures, their symbols, their ideas. This raises a profound question: are the gods we worship today fundamentally different from Mesopotamian gods, or are they the same archetypes with different names? When we pray for justice, are we invoking Shamash? When we seek wisdom, are we calling on Enki? When we worship the divine feminine, are we continuing Inanna's tradition? The names change, but the patterns persist. The Mesopotamian gods weren't perfect beings, they were complex, flawed, relatable. They loved, hated, fought, made mistakes. They weren't morally perfect, they were powerful. This reflects a different understanding of divinity, not as moral perfection, but as cosmic force. The gods represented different aspects of reality, and reality includes both creation and destruction, both order and chaos. Modern monotheistic religions tried to simplify this by creating one perfect God. But look closely at monotheism. God has different aspects, different names, different attributes. In Christianity, there's the Trinity, 3 persons in one God. In Islam, there are 99 names of Allah, each representing a different divine quality. In Judaism, there are different names for God representing different aspects. Maybe monotheism didn't replace polytheism, maybe it just reorganized it. The legacy of Mesopotamian gods is everywhere if you know where to look. In literature, in art, in architecture, in politics, in law, in religion itself. They are the foundation upon which human civilization was built. They represent humanity's first organized attempt to understand existence, to create meaning, to build societies that could last. So the next time you follow a law, read a book, look at a calendar, think about justice, or wonder about the structure of reality, remember that you're participating in patterns established thousands of years ago by people who worshipped Anu, Enlil, Enki, Inanna, and Marduk. These gods didn't just shape ancient Mesopotamia, they shaped human civilization itself. And here's the final thought: if gods are human creations, what does it say about us that we created beings like these? If gods are real, what does it say about reality that these were the forms divinity took in the world's first civilization? Either way, the Mesopotamian gods reveal something profound about human nature, about power, about meaning, about the structures we create to organize our world. Tomorrow we're exploring forgotten goddesses and their hidden stories. The female divine figures that patriarchal religions tried to erase. From Ashura to Lilith to the divine feminine in Christianity itself. You won't believe what's been hidden. Thanks for watching. If this changed how you see ancient mythology, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment, which Mesopotamian god fascinated you most? And check out the rest of our channel for more hidden history.